Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Wade Davis, and it's really my privilege and honor to introduce the next Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Justin Trudeau. And I'd like to begin with a story that took me to a ridge in Borneo with thunder over the valley and the forest alive with the electrifying sound of black cicadas. And the moon suddenly popped through the canopy, and I was sitting by a fire with a man called Asikne Ling, the last head of the Ubang River Penan, the last nomadic people of Borneo. And the Sikh looked up to the moon and he looked to me and he said, "Is it true your people have really been there?" And I said, "Yes." Well, he said, "How did they get there? What kind of transport did they have? How long did it take? And is it true that they only came back with rock and dust?" Well, it was difficult to explain to a man who kindled fire with flint a space program that had consumed the wealth of nations and catapulted a dozen men collectively billions of miles of space, or the fact that they really had only come back with rock and dust, 728 pounds of it altogether. But of course, a Sikh's question provoked the timeless answer. We didn't go to the moon to secure new wealth, but to come home with a new vision of life itself. And the seminal moment, of course, happened on that Christmas Eve as we went around the dark side of the moon, and we suddenly saw for the first time in human experience not a sunrise or a moonrise, but an earthrise. And in that crystal moment of awareness, everything changed. Like a great sweeping blessing of illumination, culture moved. Within a single generation, we began to think differently about the earth. I mean, just in my childhood, getting people to stop throwing garbage out of a car window was a great victory. Nobody spoke of the biodiversity or biosphere. Now those terms are part of the language of school children. In a single generation, we've seen women go from the kitchen to the boardroom, people of color from the woodshed to the White House, gay people from the closet to the altar. What is not to love about a world capable of such incredible social transformations in such a short period of time, such capacity for renewal? In all of these things, Canada, the land of my father, my grandfather, your fathers and mothers and grandparents, should be leading the way. But instead, we have fallen into a mute silence of shame. And I'm here today to support Mr. Trudeau because I want political leadership that will return decency, honor, truth, and transparency to the public discourse and dialogue, a political party that will regenerate the promise and hope of the democracy upon which our country was founded. I'm here to support a new leader who views the national parks and the provincial parks not as impediments of resource development, but as the crown jewels of our nation, the legacy of the very best of what we are. I'm delighted by the very prospect, the dream that we might actually have a leader in office who has actually traveled our rivers, listened and responded to the whispered messages of the wild, and who recognizes that such opportunities should be available to all Canadians, old and new, young and old. I want a leader who will restore vigilance to the environmental assessment process, not to impede industry, but because government must represent all Canadians, the interests of all Canadians, including the generations as yet unborn. I want a leader confident enough to embrace the wonder and revelations of science, not one who ignores such insights when they fail to coincide with his narrow and frankly fearful view of the world. I want a leader who sparks new dreams of the earth, not one who ridicules them. For 100 or more years, we have sacrificed in the West the natural world on the altar of our prosperity. Surely it is time to shatter this way of thinking and recognize that the well-being of the natural world, our rivers and lakes, our oceans and forests, is the very essence of our prosperity. We need a leader for a new generation, a new century, a Canadian who personifies, who embodies the two solitudes that for so long tore us apart as a people. A man old enough to remember the follies of the past, yet critically young enough to be personally invested in the transformations that surely must come. A leader who will be the architect of his own children's future is a man that I and all Canadians can trust. And so it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you today the next Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau.
Thank you, Wade. What an extraordinary introduction. Wade, as you well know, has been a staunch environmentalist all his life. He spent decades protecting the natural environment here in BC, across Canada, and around the world. And we are thrilled to have his support. I am personally incredibly touched to be able to add him to the extraordinary people who've been supporting our approach for real change and a better Canada. It's great to be here today. It's actually great to be back here today. I used to come here 30 years ago as a young teenager, because my grandma used to bring me to this very spot for sailing lessons. So chatting with some of the kids here today really bring back some great memories. Because when we'd get home, I'd tell my grandfather, Jimmy Sinclair, about the day, and he'd look at me and he'd say, "Justin, you're a natural." It was only much later that I realized he never actually specified what it was that I was a natural at. But I was thinking on my way over here today about my family, about our relationship with the outdoors, with Canada's natural beauty. My dad taught us Trudeau boys how to paddle a canoe pretty much around the same time we learned how to walk. And like many Canadians, I've spent loads of summer nights out under the stars, around a campfire, getting eaten alive. My dad never believed in bug spray. But I've always known that when it comes to our environment, we Canadians get it. We appreciate its beauty, understand its dangers, and know its value. Canadians get that our wealth comes from our land and water, so we treat them with respect. That's why we're so disappointed in the Harper Conservatives. Au cours de la dernière décennie, de nombreux pays ont entamé le virage vert et sont allés de l'avant pour bâtir une économie plus forte et plus durable. Au Canada, c'est une toute autre histoire. M. Harper nous a fait reculer. En niant les changements climatiques, il a privé les Canadiennes et les Canadiens d'un important rendez-vous. Un rendez-vous qui devait nous permettre de renforcer notre économie, d'exploiter l'ingéniosité et le talent des Canadiens et d'être un leader dans la création de nouveaux emplois verts. Aucun autre pays était mieux placé que le Canada pour saisir ces opportunités dans l'économie mondiale. Aucun autre pays dans le monde n'avait des atouts aussi solides, mais un leadership aussi faible. Aucun autre gouvernement n'a échoué aussi lamentablement que celui de M. Harper. Un gouvernement libéral fera ce qu'il faut pour corriger la situation et retrouver le droit chemin. Today, I'm here to announce our plan for real change for our environment, our economy, and our future. We need to take real action on climate change. Il est temps de mettre un prix sur les émissions de carbone au Canada. Dans les 90 jours suivant notre élection, nous travaillerons avec les provinces pour établir un cadre visant à réduire l'empreinte de carbone au Canada. It's time Canada put a price on carbon pollution. We'll work with the provinces in the first 90 days of taking office to establish a framework for reducing Canada's collective carbon footprint. Make no mistake, the Liberal Party will be putting a price on carbon. We'll invest in clean technologies. We'll look to the future and develop a Canadian energy strategy that delivers security and energy conservation while investing millions in clean tech. To create more clean jobs and investment overall, we'll enhance tax measures that help all companies innovate, grow, and create jobs. We'll attend the Paris UN Climate Change Conference with the premiers. And to clean up the mess in our own backyard, we'll put some teeth back into the environmental review process, the one gutted by Stephen Harper. Pour qu'un plus grand nombre de familles canadiennes puissent profiter de la beauté naturelle du pays, nous offrirons l'entrée gratuite aux parcs nationaux en 2017, l'année du 150e anniversaire de la Confédération. Pour financer cette initiative, nous réduirons le budget de publicité de Canada 150, car la beauté de notre pays parle d'elle-même. To make sure even more Canadian families get to enjoy our country's natural beauty, we'll make admission to national parks free in 2017, the 150th anniversary of Confederation, and we'll pay for it by cutting the lavish Canada 150 advertising budget because we know our country's beauty speaks for itself. Enfin, nous protégerons notre faune et nos cours d'eau en augmentant le nombre de zones marines protégées et côtières à 5 % d'ici 2007 et à 10 % d'ici 2020. Finally, we'll protect our wildlife and our water by increasing the amount of protected marine and coastal areas to 5% by 2017 and 10% by 2020. And these are just the highlights. You can find the rest of our plan for real environmental and economic change on realchange.ca. But speaking of those two things, the environment and the economy, they go together. They go together like paddles and canoes. If you don't take care of both, you're never going to get to where you're going. Because you can't have a strong economy without a healthy environment. And if we want to leave both to our children and grandchildren, if we want them to inherit clean air to breathe, clean water to drink and paddle, and a strong, vibrant, high-tech economy with good jobs, well, we've got to do them both together. The world has changed in the past 10 years. Stephen Harper doesn't get it. Now and in the future, the path to economic growth and good middle-class jobs is through strong environmental policy. We've got to act now. We can create clean jobs, grow our economy, and protect our environment by working together. Not just different leadership, better leadership. Not just a new team, but a stronger team. Because real change means a real plan for Canada. Merci beaucoup.